Hello everyone, welcome back. So in this session today we are going to see the explicit commands or the explicit wait methods that is available with respect to the WebdriverIO. So in our previous session we have seen couple of timeouts and we have seen the examples as well. Now the explicit commands are basically the wait that is applicable for individual elements. So there are a couple of waitFor methods which we have seen an overview. So there are basically 4 different types of waitFor commands are there. One is waitForClickable, waitForDisplayed, waitForEnabled and waitForExist. Now what is waitForClickable? Now waitForClickable, if you see the method description here, so it is basically the locator that on which you want to apply this particular clickable method. So on this particular element, you wait for the clickable event for how long? For this much amount of time. Reverse, I will just come in a moment. Timeout message, let's say that if after the timeout also, whatever this seconds you are specifying, if the clickable property is not enabling, then you make it fail your test case and give a particular message there, whatever your customized message. Now the interval. Now what is interval? Normally the 0.5 second or 500 millisecond is the polling time. In this sense, think about this. If I am giving 10 seconds here, and the clickable event will be at every half a second, it will be keep on checking whether the clickable property turned on or not. Okay, so let's say that I want to change that. Let's say I don't want to go every half a second. I know that it might take more than 2 seconds or 3 seconds. So I can just specify here 2 seconds. So when I'm specifying timeout as 10 seconds and no interval I'm giving, then it will be hitting to that particular element 20 times because every half a second it will be keep on checking. Let's say that if I'm making this interval as 2 seconds, then this waitForClickable event will be checked for only 5 times because every 2 seconds interval it will be keep on polling or checking whether that element is clickable or not till the timeout is over. Let's say that on the 5th second my element is coming with the clickable property enabled, then on the 6th second it will go to the next line of code. So that is one thing we always need to keep in mind. If it is exceeding the 10 seconds and still your clickable property is not yet enabled, then it will fail your test case, that particular test, and it will throw you the message that you are printing here. So that is basically the waitForClickable property. Now there one property comes as a reverse. What is this reverse? Now what exactly the WebdriverIO does, it's a negation of the clickable. Let's say that you are checking for an element where the clickable property only will be enabled for 5 seconds only. After 5 seconds it should block the clickable property. So at that moment what you can do, the same element dot waitForClickable, here you give 5 seconds or 6 seconds depending on the time, and you say reverse equal to true. Means the element was clickable before, but now when you're keeping it as reverse equal to true, it means that this particular method will check the not clickable property, the not clickable property. So it is exactly opposite of the clickable property. Okay, so I will show you this very clearly when we discuss this waitForDisplayed. It is absolutely same. There is not much difference. The only thing is that this displayed method will check if your visibility property is true or not. Okay, like let's say that it is present on your DOM, okay, but it is the visibility we made it as false for some reason. Let's say that we are not making it enabled. After some time or after the user puts some action, depending on the calculation, it will be visible for you. At that moment we will make the timeout. Reverse we can leave it. Now if you want to see how exactly we are really specifying, I'll show you that. So for this, let me quickly go over a new class here or a new test, and let me change a bit. Okay, So think about here, if I go to this particular web page, here if we will see, you can see there is a id equal to delay. It is not present at this moment. I'll show you that as well. Let's say I'm taking delay css selector, and you can see 0 element matching. Means what is happening, the concept here, when you click on this try me button, right, this element will appear after 5 seconds. Okay, sometimes what happens, your element is present but it is disabled. So these are basically the properties. Actually, clickable is a property of an element. Displayed, whether it is displayed is true or false. Enabled, if it is made enabled or not. waitForExist is basically whether it is present on your DOM or not. Now in this case, if you see, this particular delay button is not present on my screen, so that's where I can check the waitForExist property. Okay, fine. Now for displayed, there is a nice documentation they given, even one example also they given. Let me show you that. So here you can see there is an element. Okay, this is an element whose visibility property is hidden. Means it is at this moment, whenever you load your application, that time this particular element is hidden. Actually, I'll show you that as well. So let me show that here. I'll just open that. So if you see, there is one option is coming after 10 seconds. Hello world. Actually, you will see that in a moment. You can see that now if I go to this inspect, right, here you can see the visibility property is here enabled actually. But when you really see this element, right, now let me refresh it. It is invisible. See, you can't see that. But after 10 seconds, it is visible. So it means that the element is exist on my DOM actually, but it is visible after 10 seconds. So the same concept here also it is telling. Now at that moment, what I can do, see, for me, I want to make that element visible. That is my intention actually. So visible is nothing but displayed. So what I will say, await element dot wait for displayed. I will say timeout as 10 seconds. So it means that after 10 seconds, so before 10 seconds, if it is not displaying, that's absolutely fine. But when I'm mentioning timeout as 10 seconds, that time the element should be displayed exactly after 10 seconds. Then your test case will be passed. If let's say that for some reason, you are expecting the element to be displayed in 3 seconds, but let's say it is still taking more time, then your test case will be failing. I'll show you that. I have already written a method. Let me show you that. So if you go to this timeout, and this is my application, so let me just change a bit. So here let me just take this static application and I will just keep it here. Okay, and this hello world is ELEM, right? So what I'm going to do, I'll say ELEM. So this element, I'm expecting that it should be displayed. It should be displayed exactly after 3.5 seconds. Let's say that is my expectation. Okay, now let's see. But I know that it will take more time, but I'm expecting that it should take 3.5 seconds only. Okay, now let's run this test and see whether it is failing or passing. Now you can see it will wait for 3.5 seconds only because I mentioned. But within this 3.5 seconds, this element is not yet visible. That's why this test case got failed, and you can see there is an error. It is showing that the element is still not displayed. So probably the application is taking more time, and that is why it didn't display and then it failed your test case. Now let's see a couple of properties actually that it is present here. Now you can see there is something called as timeout reverse. By default this reverse is false actually. You can see that from the documentation. You can see by default it is false. I will show you the reverse equal to true when we will be giving that. Timeout message, I want to give something if my test case fails. Let's say that I'm giving a timeout message here. So everything should be inside the curly brackets. Now you can see timeout message colon, and let me just make it as a new line so that you can see that. So I'm keeping it, and here the timeout message, let's say that I'm giving something my own way actually here. So let's say that I'm giving element not visible after 3.5 seconds. 3.5 seconds, some message I'm giving. Even you can give any variable, print or anything, whatever you want. Now in this case I can even give the interval also. So let's say that the interval I want to check at every 2 seconds, let's say. So I'm giving 2000 millisecond. Now let's run this and we should see that particular message to be displayed here. You can see it polled in 2 seconds, and after that next 2 seconds it didn't appear. So you can see that it failed in 2.1 second. So first 2 seconds it checked, it didn't come. It tried to see the next 2 seconds, but it won't go to the next 2 seconds. Why? Because if it is going after 2 seconds, it means that your time will be already out. See, when it is trying to do for second time hit, right, at that time it is 4 seconds, but I am telling that don't wait till 4 seconds, 3.5 seconds you should be stopping it, your test. That is what it happened actually. So after 2 seconds it didn't go for second check because this limit is crossing. That's where it failed the test case actually. And you can see the element not visible after 3.5 seconds, which I have printed here. The same thing it is printing here. So that is how you will be utilizing the clickable property. It is again the same thing. Let's say that the element is present on your screen, but the clickable property is taking certain time. Let's say there is some JavaScript written which takes a certain amount of time. So what you can do, element dot wait for clickable property, and all these things will remain as it is. Whatever the message you want to print, you can print it there. Okay, now the other one is waitForEnabled property. So very simple, like displayed, it will check whether your element is enabled or not at that moment or for that specified amount of time. Okay, so if you see that for waitForEnabled, again the same number of parameters are there. Let's see what it says actually here. If you see, again they have given a nice example here. So if you see here, the element is at the first time it is disabled. Disable property is true. It means that it is not visible or it is disabled. You can't really click enter anything. You cannot do that for this text box. But after 2 seconds, this particular element will be enabled. You can see that particular element on the page, but you cannot really act anything. That is what happened here. So if I refresh this, you can see this is, I cannot do anything actually. But after 2 seconds, you can see this enabled and you can do whatever you want. You can type, you can do everything. So you need to wait for that amount of time, right, which is taking to make it as enabled. So at that moment, you will be using the waitForEnabled property here. And you need to give some timeout. Let's say that for this particular element, it takes, let's say that 3 seconds to make it as enabled. So you need to wait for 3 seconds here. And then after 3 seconds, you can say that element dot send keys or set value. You can do that. Now reverse equal to true. It means that your element was enabled at this moment, but it will be disabled after 3 seconds. So you perform certain action. Let's say that I clicked on this button. Once I click this button, after some time, this element should be disabled actually. That's how my test case is there. So you click on this button and you wait for 3 to 4 seconds to make this particular button as disabled. At that moment, you will be you click on that particular button, then you say selector is nothing but that text box which is going to disable, waitForEnabled, and you make that reverse equal to true. So how will you specify that? Let's say that text box, let me see what is the text box property. So if you see that it is username. So what you can do here, you can make like this. I will just copy paste this one so that I will show you that. So here you will say username, that is my ID, and you will say waitForEnabled, and here you will make that reverse equal to true. There has to be a reverse and you make it as true. Simple. Now here what it will do, you know, text box to be disabled if still after 3.5 seconds, if this particular element is not disabled, then it will fail the test case. There is another method that is waitForExist actually. So these were all the properties, clickable, displayed, enabled. But waitForExist is basically the presence of element on your DOM at that moment, or how much time it takes really. So for an instance, let's say that I'm coming back to this static application. Let's say that I'm clicking on this button and there would be an element at this moment, it is not present. Let me show you that. So if I go to the selectors hub and I will make it as a delay, you see that that element is not present on my DOM. But when I click on this and after 5 seconds, I will be hitting the same locator only. Let's see what happens. So if I enter here, you can see now one element is present and you can see this is appearing. So it means that the existence was not there before. But after a couple of seconds, the element appeared. It means that the existence is true now. Now this is what I will show you as an example. Okay, because as soon as you click on this button, you cannot fetch it. There is no element present. You need to wait for 5 seconds to appear this element. So that is what we are going to do. Okay, so now here first let me identify this particular button. Inspect it and you can see the name equal to commit1, right? So here okay, and after that what am I going to do? So this button should be enabled. This is nothing but the delay, right? ID delay. So here I will say await, okay, and then dollar hash delay dot waitForExist. waitForExist. See here I can even leave like this also. You have seen this way, right, where I'm giving all the parameters here. But this timeout, as we have discussed before, this timeout I can explicitly specify here or I can leave as it is, because all the parameters are optional in this. Now you might ask, okay, if I'm making this as an empty, then what would be the timeout it will take? So that timeout will be coming from here. If you see here, wait for timeout. If you go to the WDIO conf.ts, you will see here by default it is set as 10 seconds. If I want to override it, let's say that I'm sure that it won't take more than 10 seconds or it will take 5 seconds, let's say. Now what I can do, I can specify here in my curly brackets, I'll say timeout and I will say that let's say within 6 seconds I want to make it as appeared. In this case what will happen, this default 10 seconds will be overridden by 6 seconds. Once it is available, then what am I going to do? Let's say I will expect it or I will assert it. So I will say await dollar and I will say, see at this moment I'm re-identifying every time, but in reality this is not a good practice. We will see while building the our page objects. So at that moment you will see those things. Now at this moment, and the text is, if you see, I'll just make only this much. And so I'm loading this particular URL, then I'm clicking on this button. After clicking on this button to appear, it will take for 5 seconds. For the safe side, I'm taking it as 6 seconds. Once this waitForExist is true, then I'm asserting that this particular button's text should contain this particular text. So I will just say rename, copy, and I will come back here and update into this spec here, okay, and run this test. And it clicked. Now we should wait for 5 seconds. And it appeared, and also this expect statement also got executed. That is why your test case got fast, and you can see it is taking nearly 6.5 seconds. So that is how you can really deal with this one. So here you have got it right. If I'm not specifying this 6 seconds, then at max this waitForExist, it's not just waitForExist, even waitForEnabled, waitForClickable, everything, if you're not specifying inside this timeout parameter, then it would consider your waitFor timeout as a global timeout here. Here 10 seconds it will be waiting. I'll show you another situation where waitFor not displayed, the reverse situation actually. So for this I'm going to this example here. So let me close this, and if you see there is a the start button is there, right? You click on this, you see that there is a loading button is appearing here. Okay, after some time it is got hidden. If I just inspect, and let's say that if I'm trying to inspect that, and I know that, so that is loader and then B, you can see that one element is matching but it is not highlighting anywhere, because if you go inside this, right, that load, if I go inside after one more, and you can see this element is present actually on the DOM, but it is made it as hidden actually at this moment. So when you are clicking on this, right, for some time it is made it as enabled actually. You can see that the display none is gone. After some time the display none is coming. Now as the loader is going again hidden, your text will be appearing actually. Now let's keep all these things in place and then I will show you. So I'll just copy paste this particular test, I'll make it as enable, and I will say waitFor not displayed. Okay, the reverse scenario I'm going to see that. So in this case the loader, now if I go this particular button, let's see what is this. So this is loader start, right? So I'll make it as loader start here, and after that I'm going to wait for that particular, because see, as soon as I'm starting this element is appearing, but I need to wait till it is disappeared actually. So I'll say here loader and B waitFor displayed, but waitForDisplayed how much? I know that it will take 5 to 6 seconds actually, but here I will specify reverse equal to true. So it means that wait for this particular element to disappear. When I'm saying reverse equal to true, it is the negation of this one. After that, what am I going to do? I'll identify this particular button, which is loader delay. So I'll just take this loader delay and I will keep it here, and here I will say this text I will be matching it. So I will just say that after 5 seconds loading. So I'll say like this. So here I'm not checking this particular button to appear actually, because I don't know when this will appear actually, or I might not be knowing also this button really takes some time or not. But I know that as soon as this button will be hidden, this button will be enabled. That's how my application is behaving. Another situation I will tell you. Think about you're clicking on a next button, let's say that. Now at that moment there is a loader button is appearing, a loader or a spinner is appearing. So what you can do, you can make sure that that spinner to not to display, because it displayed after your action. So you will wait till that is not displayed, then you go to the next page element action. So let's test this scenario, and I'm going to run this. The text is appearing, and you can see it is the text got appeared, and this particular test case also got executed, this expect statement here. So that is how you will be using the waitFor methods, and also the reverse. The reverse, just make sure that it is the reverse of whatever it is there. And waitForExist, we have already seen that. Think about there is a situation where you are expecting that button to completely disappear from your DOM only. Okay, at that moment what you can do, waitForExist reverse equal to true. You can see that let's say that you are deleting one entity actually there. After that, that entity will not be present on your screen, right? So at that moment you click on that delete. Once after clicking on that delete, you will say that that entity, I mean await $entity dot waitForExist reverse equal to true. So I hope you guys understood all the different types of waitFor methods. Okay, so there is another way actually, that is wait until. We will be seeing that in our next session, what is wait until. Okay, so hope this particular session is helpful. Do try different combinations and let me know if you guys have any questions. So stay tuned and do subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.